Hello friends, welcome back to the CSE Web. This is our part 2 of our first chapter in web technologies. So in this lecture first thing we are going to discuss is various selectors in CSS. First, there are nearly 13 selectors. When we list them, they are universal selector, type selector, class selector, ID selector, attribute selector, attribute value selector, child selector, descendant selector, adjacent sibling selector, general sibling selector, pseudo class selector, pseudo element selector, negation pseudo selector. So let us see syntax, an example and description for these various selectors. So first is universal selector. For this selector, the syntax will be a star mark. Example star. Uh, this is the example in which we use it for entire thing. So it selects all the elements of the page. Next is type selector. Its syntax will be element name. Like example is, if we want to give red color to h1 tag, so we use this syntax. It selects all elements of the specified type. Example, all h1 elements or all image elements, this kind of things. Next is class selector. Syntax will be class name. We use dot header, means dot class name and the description. It selects all elements with the specified class name. Example, all elements with class is equal to header in previous example. Next is ID selector. Its syntax will be hash of ID name. Example will be hash of, let us suppose ID name is logo, so it will be hash logo, then the description. It selects all the elements with the specified ID. Example, the element with ID is equal to logo. Next is attribute selector. Now in attribute selector, syntax is attribute name, then the description of that particular thing. It selects all elements with the specified attribute. Example, all elements with an href lang attribute. Next is attribute value selector. In this, syntax is attribute name is equal to value. Suppose we have an attribute whose value is in. So for that we will get this. We'll get that CSS applied. It selects all elements with the specified attribute and value. Example, all elements with href lang is equal to n. Next is child selector, and next is descendant selector. After that, adjacent sibling selector. After that, general sibling selector. Then pseudo class selector, pseudo element selector. Next, box model in CSS. The box model is a fundamental concept in CSS that plays a crucial role in understanding how elements are laid out and styled on a web page. Here is why the box model is important in CSS. First of all, what is a box model? The box model is a rectangular box that wraps around every HTML element on a web page. It consists of four main parts. First is content area, the area where the element's content is displayed. Next is padding. The space between the content area and the border is called padding. Next is border. The visible border around the element is called border. Next is margin. It is the space between the element and other elements on the page. Next, why is box model important? First is layout and positioning. The box model helps determine the position and layout of elements on a web page. By understanding how the box model works, you can control the spacing, alignment and positioning of elements. Next is styling and design. The box model is essential for styling and designing web pages. You can use the box model to add borders, padding, and margins to elements, which can greatly enhance the visual appeal of a website. Next is responsive design. The box model is crucial in responsive design as it helps you create flexible and adaptable layouts that work well on different devices and screen sizes. Next is accessibility. The box model can affect the accessibility of a website. For example, if the padding and margin are not set correctly, it can make it difficult for users with disabilities to navigate the website. Next, browser consistency. The box model helps ensure consistency across different browsers and devices. By understanding how the box model works, you can write CSS code that works consistently across different browsers and devices. Next is debugging. The box model can help us debug layout and styling issues. By understanding how the box model works, we can identify and fix issues more easily. Common box model issues. Box model width and height. The width and height of an element can be affected by the box model. If we don't account for the padding, border, and margin, we can end up with unexpected widths and heights. Next is margin collapse. When two or more elements have different margins, they can collapse into a single margin. This can cause layout issues if not handled correctly. Next is padding and border. If we don't set the padding and border correctly, it can affect the layout and styling of an element. Next are best practice. We should use the box sizing property, set box sizing to box border box to include padding and border in the width and height of an element. Next is use consistent units. We should use consistent units, example pixels, percentage, or EMs for padding, border, and margin to avoid confusion. Next is we should test our code in different browsers and devices and debug any issues that arise. Next, we should use semantic HTML elements to create more accessible and maintainable code. In conclusion, the box model is a fundamental concept in CSS that plays a crucial role in understanding how elements are laid out and styled on a web page. By understanding the box model, we can create more accessible, maintainable, and visually appealing websites. Next, we will see some benefits of Flexbox and grid layout. First, we will see some benefits of Flexbox. It is Flexbox makes it easy to manage layouts, especially when dealing with multiple elements of different sizes. Next, it is flexible and adaptable. Flexbox allows elements to adapt to different screen sizes and devices, making it ideal for responsive design. Simple and intuitive. Flexbox is relatively simple to learn and easy and use, especially compared to older layout methods like floats and positioning. Improved alignment. Flexbox provides easy alignment options, making it easy to center or align elements horizontally or vertically. Reduced code. Flexbox can reduce the amount of code needed to create complex layouts, making it more efficient solution. Better performance. Flexbox can improve page performance by reducing the number of layouts, recalculations, and repaints. Easy to create complex layouts. Flexbox makes it easy to create complex layouts such as equal height, columns, or responsive navigation menus. Now, grid benefits. First is two-dimensional layouts. Grid allows for the creation of two-dimensional layouts, making it ideal for complex and intricate designs. Precise control. Grid provides precise control over the placement and sizing of elements, making it perfect for creating pixel perfect designs. Flexible and adaptable. Grid is flexible and adaptable, allowing elements to adjust to different screen sizes and devices. Easy to create complex layouts. Grid makes it easy to create complex layouts such as masonry style grids or responsive magazine layouts. Improved performance. Grid can improve page performance by reducing the number of layout recalculations and repaints. Reduced code. Grid can reduce the amount of code needed to create complex layouts, making it a more efficient solution. Better accessibility. Grid can improve accessibility by providing a clear and consistent layout structure. Now we will see some shared benefits between uh, Flexbox and Grid layout. Improved responsiveness. Both Flexbox and Grid provide improved responsiveness, allowing elements to adapt to different screen sizes and devices. Simplified layout management. Both Flexbox and Grid simplify layout management, making it easier to create and maintain complex layouts. Increased flexibility. Both Flexbox and Grid provide increased flexibility, allowing elements to adjust to different contexts and scenarios. Better browser support. Both Flexbox and Grid have excellent browser support, making them reliable choices for modern web development. Improved developer experience. Both Flexbox and Grid provide an improved developer experience, making it easier to create and maintain complex layouts. Now we will see when to use Flexbox and when to use Grid layout. Flexbox is used for simple one-dimensional layouts, responsive navigation menus, equal height columns, simple flexible layouts. Next, when should we use grid layout? For complex two-dimensional layouts, for pixel perfect designs, for masonry style layout, for masonry style grids, for responsive magazine layouts. In summary, Flexbox and Grid are both powerful layout tools that provide improved responsiveness, simplified layout management, and increased flexibility. While they share some benefits, they are suited for different use cases, and choosing the right one depends on the specific requirement of our project. Next, let us discuss about various components of a web browser. First, user interface components. In this, we have address bar, back and forward buttons, refresh button, home button, bookmark button, menu bar. Next is browser engine. In this, we have rendering engine and JavaScript engine. Rendering engine is responsible for rendering the HTML, CSS and JavaScript code of a web page. Next, the JavaScript engine is responsible for executing JavaScript code on a web page. Networking components. In this, we have HTTP request or response handler. This component handles HTTP requests and responses between the browser and the web server. DNS resolver. The DNS resolver is responsible for resolving domain names to IP addresses. Socket handler. The socket handler establishes and manages connections between the browser and the web server. Data storage components. In this, we have cache, cookie store, and local storage. The cache stores frequently accessed resources such as images and JavaScript files to improve page load times. Cookie store manages cookies, which are small pieces of data stored on the user's device by websites. Local storage. Local storage allows websites to store data locally on the user's device, such as login credentials and preferences. Security components. SSL TLS handler establishes secure connections between the browser and the web server. In the next, certificate validator. The certificate validator verifies the authenticity of SSL or TLS certificates presented by websites. Next, same origin policy enforcer. The same origin policy enforcer ensures that web pages can only access resources from the same origin, that is, domain, protocol, and port. Rendering components. In this, we have layout engine. The layout engine is responsible for calculating the layout of a web page, including the position and size of elements. Next, graphics engine. The graphics engine is responsible for rendering graphics such as images and videos on a web page. Next, font renderer. The font renderer is responsible for rendering fonts on a web page. Next, additional components. Plugin handler, extension manager, accessibility features. In summary, a web browser is composed of various components that work together to provide a seamless browsing experience. These components include the user interface, browser engine, networking components, data storage components, security components, rendering components, and additional components. Next, let us see what are the various measuring units used in CSS. The various measuring units used in CSS include pixels, which are represented by px. Next is percentage sign. Next are rem, pt, which are points, pc, picas, in inches, cm centimeters, millimeters, pw viewport width. Next is viewport height. Next, now let us specify the details of margins in CSS. In CSS, the margin property specifies the space between an element and its adjacent elements and can be set using various values such as margin, length or percentage or auto or inherit, where length can be in units like pixel, rem, etc., and can be applied to individual sites using margin top, margin right, margin bottom, margin left properties. Next is, what are the various ways in which a color can be specified? In CSS, colors can be specified using various methods, including hexadecimal codes. Example, hash, then RRG, GBB. Next is RGB values, RGB of something. Then RGBA values, HSL values, HSLA values, color names, and shorthand notations. So these are all the examples for these different methods. Next, what is a border in CSS? In CSS, a border is a decorative line that surrounds an element. It is specified using the border property, which can be customized with various styles. Example, solid, dashed, dotted, width and colors to create a visual separation or emphasis around an element. Now let us discuss about fonts in CSS. In CSS, fonts can be controlled using the font property, which allows specifying font family, style, variant, weight, size, and line height, as well as other font related properties such as font family, font size, font style, font weight, and font variant to customize the appearance of text in a web page.